Ahem. Yes, of course. The core of light, which was built by the ancients, keeps the darkness at bay. The good news is that we have located the Eye of the Ancients, a massive creature of incalculable power. To claim the Eye, you must defeat these creatures, but to fight a Titan, you must become a Titan. But what I have discovered is that it was never actually completed. Its original function was not to act as a shield, but as a weapon that would vanquish the darkness forever. To complete it, you must reclaim the missing piece, the Eye of the Ancients. Only then will you be able to realize the core of light's true potential. Before creating the portals, the ancients explored the universe using magical relics called rift engines. But in their haste to spread the light of Skylands to other worlds, they created a powerful rift engine that opened a door to a forbidden world and unleashed a destructive force into Skylands, the darkness. Centuries later, in the age of the Portal Masters, the Skylanders had become the greatest champions the world had ever known. No enemy or debris could stand before their might. It was even said they could make scientifically improbable leaps. But the darkness was still out there, somewhere, laying in wait. As the Skylanders adventured through the land, they happened upon caches of gold and shiny bits. A welcome contribution to the next upgrade. It is widely known that fairies only accept cold, hard cash. Suddenly, tremors and aftershocks rumbled throughout the land. Some great evil was being conjured in the arcane keep of the Spellpunks. The devious Spellpunks had unearthed the very same cursed relic that had allowed the darkness into Skylands centuries ago. The Dark Rift Engine. The Spellpunks had to be stopped before they could use its power to awaken the darkness. But the way to the Citadel had grown treacherous. Danger sprang from the shadows. These threats were like none other before. The Spellpunks were drawing magic from the Dark Rift Engine, feeding power to the darkness. The Skylanders ate healthy snacks to whet their appetite for justice. The Skylanders fought their way through the danger, charging into the mouth of the Spellpunk Keep. But then, without warning, all of Skylands began to quake, and a wave of fear swept over the land as a great and terrible shadow erupted from the keep. It bellowed in a deep and malevolent voice. "Behold, Skylands, I have returned. All shall fear and obey me. I am the darkness." As the power of the darkness grew, the marauding forces that served it took control of the skies and terrorized the land. All hope seemed lost. Until a ragtag group of pilots was assembled with a single impossible goal: to hold back the encroaching evil and give the good people of Skylands a chance to escape to safety. This First Light Squadron took to the skies in defiance of all odds to meet this threat head-on. The darkness, underestimating our heroes, sent out a small group of fighters to crush them, and was sorely disappointed. The First Light Squadron dispatched these foes with authority and continued their quest. The darkness, enraged at the squadron's continued success, brought more of its armada into the battle. But the First Light Squadron was undeterred. These enemies, too, would fall before the righteous might of these brave pilots. But the darkness was cunning and called forth the Dark Galleon to vanquish the squadron's hopes. The dark forces were relentless in their attack, but The First Light Squadron was determined to destroy the Dark Galleon and cripple the Armada once and for all. Thus began the final charge of the First Light Squadron. The Armada of Darkness fell that day to a ragtag group of heroic pilots who refused to accept that their quest was impossible. Their courage would inspire all to rise up against the power of the darkness. The War of the Darkness had nearly been lost as all of Skylands was being held in its terrible grip. But there was one chance. A mythical device built by the ancients to combat the darkness had been discovered. It was called the Core of Light. But finding its location would be the most dangerous mission of them all. The darkness knew the Core of Light would be its end, and so it attacked. Its dark power was beyond comprehension. It shattered mountains and bridges with casual disdain. Undaunted, even in the face of this great evil, the Skylanders continued the quest, but still found time to stop and collect great piles of treasures. Upgrades don't come cheap. The darkness's rage was earth-shaking and all-consuming, for it knew that in order for its power to grow, the Core of Light must stay hidden. It called forth its evil servants to do its terrible bidding. But they would fall before the Skylander like limp bundles of experience and treasure. The darkness grew desperate. Again and again it attacked with renewed fury, only to be turned back by the brave Skylanders. And then, after a long journey, the lost citadel of the Portal Masters had been reached. The radiant purity of the Core of Light had been found at last. But in the distance, the darkness raged on. Servants of the darkness were known for keeping a lethal menagerie of creatures and beasts. None was more terrifying than the multi-headed monstrosity known as the Hydra. The Hydra's appetite for both food and destruction was without limit. Dark Portal Masters, in an effort to appease their favorite pets, gathered all the food in Skylands and dropped it in the sea. The people, hungry and deprived of all sustenance, called on their heroes, the Skylanders, for aid. The Skylander, heedless of danger, dove into the shadowed and endless depths of the sea to face the Hydra. But the lair of this Hydra was fraught with peril, danger, and exploding proximity mines. Ever deeper into the abyss the Skylander traveled. But the Hydra was not the only dangerous creature in this deep sea. Ravenous Hydra hatchlings hid, coiled in the rocks, and would strike without warning. The fabled fracture fish of Foul Falls swam these waters briefly. Sunken treasure was a welcome, untaxable benefit of this journey. Finally, the Skylander descended into the lair of the Hydra. There was the pilfered food. Without hesitation, the Skylander snatched up the food. The sea rumbled and quaked as the Hydra woke. The heads of the Hydra lashed out in rage. The Skylander was cornered until a secret passage out of the lair was revealed. The Skylander sped away. This food was too important to risk. Faster and faster the Skylander swam. But the Hydra's speed was incredible. It churned the water into a swirling foam, gaining and gaining on the Skylander. But just up ahead, that geyser, could it? It could! The various and many jaws of the Hydra snapped at the jets of water in frustration. It had been robbed of its prize and vengeance. The Skylander returned the stolen food to the people of Skylands, thwarting this creature of darkness. The forces of good had discovered the hidden location of the Core of Light, but they soon realized that the ancients had never completed this great machine, a secret that to this day has been forgotten. But with the darkness closing in for the final blow, they had no choice. They would power up the core and risk everything in a final battle. And they would hope that even an incomplete core of light would be enough to keep the darkness at bay. The Skylander sped into action. There was only one chance, an all-out attack to drive the darkness toward the core itself. But the darkness would not go easily. Their battle echoed across all Skylands, trading blows that shattered islands in their wake. The darkness laid snares and traps for the Skylander. The Skylander, however, would not be halted. Desperate, the darkness unleashed its full power. Its dark might seared the sky, tearing across the land. On and on the battle waged, the darkness fighting to hold on. But inch by inch it was pushed back until it was in range of the core. And then its glorious light filled the sky. The darkness howled in anger as it was engulfed in pure energy. With the core of light holding it at bay, it was forced to flee and hide in the deepest, darkest parts of Skylands once again. But for how long? One day it will return for its revenge. In order to destroy the darkness once and for all, the secret to completing the core of light and unleashing its true power must be found. This will be my life's work, to be continued. So, what I am thinking for this tale is a sort of fable on the dangers of excess. So, perhaps the hero discovers a secret room full of treasure. And not just some treasure, but a veritable cornucopia of coins and gold. But then, as they collect it, a metaphor arrives in the form of a crushing ball of covetousness. It chases the hero, destroying all in its wake. And then, the hero escapes, a little richer, a little wiser. What do you think? Too highbrow? Sometimes I tire of historical transcription. I'd like to do something fun and frantic, a straightforward tale of action. Yes, something that is just a white-knuckle campfire tale of sinewy heroes battling enemies for no good reason. No, not just one battle, a series of them. Waves of terrible creatures, armed with terrifying weapons and no motivation. And then they clash and clash, each battle greater and more gratuitous than the last, until the hero stands victorious atop a pile of his defeated foes. Note to self. Use a pen name on this story. One bounce this way and one bounce that. Upwards, not downwards. Avoid falling flat. 2 bounces aside and 2 bounces in. Land light on your feet and not on your chin. 3 bounces diagonal and 3 bounces northeast. Leave with the most and not with the least. Now, bounce out and bounce home, but bounce back again. The gold always glitters at Evercoin Lane. The jellyfish were expert scavengers, lighting the way to the hidden food.